Good evening, everybody. It's me, Mitch. How you doing? Tuesday night. And I've been waiting for YouTube to show me that I'm live, and finally, 30 seconds after I hit the go live button, I saw it come up on the browser. So, thought maybe it wasn't working. Always. Always a little bit of tension. See if everybody else is doing their job. Good evening, guys. Good evening. I'll enjoy a little bit of music before I show my face. And even though it's not in the morning, if you happen to have it, drink it. I happen to have it. I happen to have it. Right here. Hope you all had a nice day. I hope that your day was as productive as mine. I had my teeth cleaned as they're going to get today. And I had to break in a new hygienist. I don't know what happened to my old one. They didn't warn me after years and years and years with the same hygienist. You know, there are certain people that you let into your life that finally get to know you and how to treat you. And then all of a sudden they're gone. Psst, no warning. I walk in. Hi, Mitch. This is Olivia, and she's your new hygienist today. And I mean, I'm old, and I know she wasn't that young, but she looked like she was 12 years old. And she might even be watching tonight because I gave her my channel name. But those of you that have known me for years and years and years know that nobody on the planet Earth at this stage of my life tells me what I have to do. They can make suggestions. They can tell me, we'd like you to do this. Would you mind doing this? But nobody says, you have to do something. Well, we walk into the room, and the first thing she does is she says, before we start, we're going to take an x-ray of your upper left. And I looked at her and I said, no, you're not. I know what's going on up there. He took an x-ray of it 4 months ago. Nothing's changed. I don't need to do that crap. And my old hygienist would have probably not even suggested it, let alone just come right out and said. I said, no, you don't. She looks at me and she goes, yes, I do. Like I'm frigging 12 years old, like somebody would talk to an unruly child. I looked at her, I kind of sterned up, gave her that look of mine that usually will have most people going, maybe I should back off now. I said, no, you don't. And she come back again and says, well, yes, I do. I started to pick up my stuff. I was walking out. I was done with him. I'm done with them. The last thing in the world anybody insists is that I take any medical treatment that I don't deem necessary. Now, she can try to sell me with the idea and tell me why it's necessary and everything else, but she cannot demand that I allow her to do any kind of procedure on me. So she finally said, I forget exactly how it went down, but I don't know if it was a test, if I was just testing her, or I was just marking my territory. Let's just be kind and put it that way. And she hung in there, man. I honest to God, she didn't spook it a minute, and I respected her for that. But she backed off. Okay, all right, no problem. I said thank you, and then I explained a little bit to her, and I said, that's a very sore point for me. All my life, people have been demanding, I take their statins, I do this, I do that. If I had to listen to all the healthcare professionals that have given me all this advice all my life, I wouldn't be standing here with you now. I would have been in the ground 20 years ago. You could have come visited me. at the cemetery. I said, that's just who I am. I said, that's why I don't like starting over with new people. But I didn't mean to spook you. I said, this is just me. When you get to know me, I said, you'll love me. And yeah, by the time, and she cleaned my teeth, and she did a great job. She was very talented. She's been a hygienist for 6 years. And at the very end, I complimented her. And I think I don't know if she still thought I was absolutely out of my mind, or she gained a little respect for me. But we in between, you can't talk much when somebody's got all kinds of crap stuck in your mouth. But Ellen is texting me. What does she say? A message from Ellen. Hey, she says, I'm sorry to interrupt. I didn't have time to call you before I heard the morning stream. Of course, I still love you. Ah, been walking in the morning, and I'm at a class now. I'd pay money to see this. Doggy CPR. See everyone soon, she says. Ah, that's great. That's great. I'm gonna send her back a smiley face. There you go. Okay, super. Well, how about that? And I don't guess she's watching the stream because she's at Doggy CPR right now. Or maybe she did tune in for a second. So it went pretty good, and the dentist that owns this whole practice, I told you before, bought the practice from my best friend in the world, Stan Post. He was my friend for 30 years, my best friend. I think I might have been his best friend. We were each other's confidant. You know, most men have somebody in their life, some other guy, when they can't talk to anybody else about very private and personal issues, things that involve their relationships, their marriage, their finances, business. Everybody, if they're lucky, has one person that they can talk to as counsel. And Stan and I respected each other in that role. I mean, here's a guy that was incredibly successful, talented man, would come to me for counsel in certain matters, and he thought as highly of me, and I went to him for counsel in certain matters, and we were like brothers, closer than most brothers. And he died 12 years in 2013, 12 years ago, and he sold his practice to this very young dentist. And Brian Anderson is his name. What a sweet guy, young guy, nicest young guy you'd ever want to meet. And of course, Stan introduced me to him before he even took over the practice. And we've known each other for that many years. And, you know, I still go back to him because I consider him a little more than an acquaintance, but not quite a personal friend. But, you know, whenever he sees me, if he sees me walking by in the hallway and he's with a patient, he will leave the patient and come out. Hi, Mitch. Hey, Brian. How you doing, kid? I call him kid. He's half my age. I call him kid. And so I'm walking out of the office with the new hygienist today, and I still don't know if she hates my guts and thinks I'm a flaming asshole or just an old guy firm in his convictions, especially when it comes to medical stuff. So I'm walking by the room, and I look, and Brian turns around. He's got his hands deep in a patient, and he turns around, and damn if he doesn't just come walking out, puts his arm around my shoulder. Hey, Mitch, how you doing? And Olivia kind of looks and goes, oh, shit. and I did her a solid. I said, you got yourself a real winner here, Brian. You got yourself a real winner. Hang on to this one. And so I guess Olivia and I are going to be good friends from here on out. But I got to tell you, in the first minute of that start, like most medical professionals, like most nurses, you've all found yourself in that condition. When you go into the hospital, they treat you like a child. They treat you like you're ignorant. They treat you like you have no idea of anything. They have no idea what they've got in their bed in front of them, who they've got, how much that person knows, and how much that person's willing to take. So I have always found, whether it be a doctor or a nurse or any new medical professional, I state the ground rules first. If that's not acceptable, adios. I've walked out on so many doctors. I've just said, I'm sorry, doc. I don't want you as my doctor. And I walk out. And they're probably relieved because they wouldn't like having me as a patient. I just will not bow down, kiss their stethoscope, and blindly accept their ignorance as they slowly kill me with bad information and prescription pads. That's my view on the medical community. I know that took a little time tonight, but where are we going? We got nowhere to go. Nowhere to go. That's my recommendation to how to treat people in the medical community. That's just exactly what to do. You're the boss. I don't care who they are or how long their white coat is. You are employing them. You are the customer. You are not obligated to obey them. And if they act insulted at all, or even impatient with you, don't hesitate to tell them to go F themselves. Give me a call, Doc, when you learn a little bit something about medicine, will you? Thanks. Been great meeting you. And I always leave them with a smile. It's been fabulous meeting you, and put out my hand to shake it. And I've done that. I hope one of these days I'm going to wake one of these clowns up with their prescription pad and their healthy fruits and vegetables and whole grains and statins and everything else that they have got ass backwards. Ass backwards. Yes. She got an email from somebody that was empty. Has no subject and nothing in the email. Okay. Must have hit that send button a little too soon. I'll probably get another one. It was from one of you guys, so I'm interested to see what it was. Well, we're going to have no panel tonight. I'm going to try to keep up with you guys in the chat. I see Boyd Lamb. Boyd Lamb has been, I think Boyd was one of our first channel members, 14 months today. No greeters, Mitch. Just to brag. Yes, 14 months. Good to have you, Boyd. You're one of this channel's, one of the old OGs. You're one of the OGs in this channel. You, Cliff Medina. I feel like you guys. I got one of you on this shoulder. One of you guys on this shoulder. One of you guys on this shoulder. On this shoulder, they're always nagging me about vitamin D. On this shoulder, you're nagging me about Trump and politics, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I love it. I love having you guys around. You send me videos to watch all the time. It's great. Let me say hi to a couple people. Speaking of the devil, Cliff Medina chimed in. First one out there. First thing, Don Schonger this afternoon. Aunt B. How you doing, Aunt B? Good to see you. Carnivore Butcher's here. Man, I need to take some lessons from somebody who claims to be a carnivore butcher. And Duggar is here. How you doing, Duggar? Patrick, Target Prime Rib, good to see you, my friend. Mike Seeley Sr.'s here. And Peter's here. Guess who's here? Quack Jr., yes. Yes, working till 8 o'clock. Be listening on my drive home. Good. Chime on in when you get home. Mike Silly from Tampa's here. Michael Pregler. And now we're getting into the evening. Nikki W. chimed in about 7:30. Sandy Blythe. We're almost up to 100 people. Not bad for an evening. The mornings do a lot better, but maybe the people from the morning have said, I just had enough of that clown for today. Nikki W. again. Nikki W. Everybody's chatting away. Spanky's here from Canada. Hiya, Spanky. How you doing? How are you, my friend? We'll see you Thursday night, I'm sure. Thursday night, we're going to do a panel. I'm doing no panel tonight to see if I can figure out why the hell YouTube decided, or their algorithm decided, that my live streams where I do panels aren't suitable for advertisers, hence they demonetize it. Always a mystery. Always a mystery. Jeff Johnson, the name you know. Good evening, boys and girls. Great to be here. Good evening, Jeff. How are you? How are you? And Tanya, Kitchen Witch is here. And if you look in the upper right-hand corner, of your screen, you will see what looks like a skull and crossbones. But wait. And I showed this morning, and I am going to show it again. Tanya sent me this. Her husband made that. And she's having a T-shirt made, and she sent me the graphics and said, if you would like to make a T-shirt with that on it, feel free to use it. And I said, wow, that's really cool. It's different, kind of invokes that carnivore, cigar smoking, Harley Davidson driving biker mentality type of person. But I suppose that's me. I'm driven motorcycles all my life. I love it. So I said, well, you know what? I'm going to change up a little bit with that logo in the upper corner of my stream. And instead of having the coffee cup, which I always have up there, this is not morning coffee with Mitch, so why put the coffee cup up there? I'm going to put that little skull and crossbones. And if any of you guys, and I didn't see anybody respond to my question this morning. I said, if any of you guys think that it would be fun to have a T-shirt like this and you want one, just let me know somehow. And if I see enough people actually want it, I'll go ahead and arrange to get them made up and put in the merch store. So let me know. At any rate, I thought it was fabulously nice of Tanya and her husband to do that, and that they actually wanted one for themselves. And Tanya, when she gets that shirt, is going to send a picture of her wearing that Mitch Fitz T-shirt. And Mitch Fitz is becoming a thing now. I had mixed emotions about that, but now it kind of grew on me. Kind of like it now. Because I'm always talking about how we are a tiny little band of misfits, bucking what everybody else knows to be absolutely true, doing exactly the opposite of everything people tell us to be healthy, and yet miraculously somehow we're healthier and they're getting sicker. Don't believe your lying eyes. Believe what I tell you. It's not really happening. We're really healthier than you, even though we weigh 100 pounds more than you do. Oh, man. Let's see here. Who haven't I said hi to? Tina Schweikerath is here. Hi, Tina. Good to see you. And the Furl Grandma. Hi, Wanda Girling's in the house. Hi, Wanda. We up to 8:30 yet? Not even close. Aaron, Booby Goats, good evening, you amazing people. You got that right, Aaron. You are amazing people. Laurie's Carnivore Story. Hi, Laurie. How you doing? CB, Sheriff CB from Alabama. How you doing? Good to see you. As usual. Gary. Hi, Gary. No slow. Good evening, everybody. Gary says, Granny. Boo too. Glorious evening, Carnivore family, she says. Pamela Suarez joined us. Still only 8 o'clock in the chat. Coming up, 7:59. Coming up on the bell. Coming up, and the winner. Nikki. Ding, ding, ding. You're the winner, followed closely by Don Schonger, Pamela Suarez, Rick from Miami Charger Mopar, 8 o'clock. Always a race to the finish line. Kathy, Florida's here. How you doing? Yes, Nikki, you did it. And 8 o'clock, FX Trader, Papa Carnivore chimed in at 8 o'clock. Pamela Suarez again. Laurie again. Wow, how many people can actually post a chat within 1 minute period of time? Look at this. Pamela Suarez, and the last one in again, Nikki. Nikki at 8 o'clock. Poopy Goats came in, 801 started the show. And one of my favorite handles on YouTube. Okay. Okay. Hi, Mitch. Haven't seen you in a while. Okay. Okay. I'm such a South Park fan. Honest to God, I'm such a South Park fan. Thank you to Mark Whistler for making this cup for me with Kenny with a black hoodie to match my black hoodie. Because if you watch South Park, you know that Kenny's got a red hoodie. And Mackie, oh, Mr. Mackie's my favorite. Okay, okay. Plants are bad. Okay, okay. Plants are bad. Yeah, I love it. I love it. It's amazing how that kind of thing filters into our culture and endears itself to us. And Tanya, in true spirit, Mitch Fitz, unite. Yes, we have to. There's strength in numbers. Yeah, our numbers need to be in the millions, unfortunately. Jennifer Hip, how you doing? Monday, Mitch, coffee at night is my favorite place. Nightcap, yes. Yes, and a question from Boyd Lamb. Did Mr. Pseudo Carnivore non-butt crack plumber man fix your plumbing leak? Oh, man. He's really not a pseudo carnivore. He's in pretty good shape, and he does not eat many plants. He's not a carnivore like we are, like I am, but he's on the right track, man. Nice guy. He's going. We came to a deal. He's going to actually replumb my house, run all new plumbing, and I mean it's a project, but it needs to be done. And he's going to start Friday or Saturday, and he didn't even ask me for money, which is very unusual for somebody that you give them a job. They usually say, "Okay, I need 50% down," but no, he just see you then. He was referred to by a friend of my son's who deals a lot with trades and builders, and this guy has a group of 4 or 5 different guys, and between them they do about everything: plumbing, electrical, carpentry, masonry, and but each one of them, they're not a company, not a big company. They don't have receptionists and salesmen and all that. They're just guys work for themselves, and from everything I've heard, they're an honorable bunch of guys. Exactly what I was looking for. Used to be, and it's been a long time since I was able to say, to somebody, "Oh, I got a guy for that. You want the name of my guy? Mitch, you know any electricians? Yeah, I got a guy. I know him. I'll vouch for him. I haven't had any guys in years because I haven't been able to find an honorable human being to deal with that isn't out to rip you off. But hopefully this time I found one. And I'll give you a blow-by-blow of how the plumbing job is coming. But if I tell you what my life has been like because of the plumbing in this house for the 8 or 9 years I've lived here, you would not believe it how many times I had to crawl underneath this place fixing leaks, because it was plumbed with polybutylene, and if any of you know what that is, it was the miracle plumbing 35 years ago that they invented, and over the next 10 to 20 years after they plumbed half the houses in this country with it, they discovered that the plastic deteriorated in the fittings, and they cracked and leaked, and lawsuits were filed. They finally outlawed the use of it because it was so bad. Kind of like drugs, kind of like a new drug that they rush to market. And 10 years later, they find out people are dropping dead like flies from this. But it took 10 years to find out. So they finally pull it off the market. Well, hoorah, except for all the people that are stuck in a house that's plumbed with this crap that keeps springing leaks. So I just bit the bullet. I'm going to replace it all. You guys want to help? Buy me a coffee. Thank you. This one's going to be expensive. Oh, well, at any rate, don't buy me a coffee to help me with my plumbing. Buy me a coffee because you love me and you appreciate what I do and I entertain you, and the advice and the information I give you has really been meaningful. That's why you show your appreciation to me. You're okay. That's great. Here, Frankie has a question. Says, do you take an afternoon nap? I take an after. Oh, Valerie said Meetups. Okay, here did get the email from Valerie. It was blank before. I met you at the Meetups in Melbourne and one in Tampa. I would love to go to the Tampa Meetups. I lived there, but I see Dr. Kiltz's site that they are now charging 120. What? Kiltz is charging $125 a ticket to come to a meetup? I mean, the way we do it is just pay for your lunch. I don't know. I let everybody else do their thing. I don't pay attention to what they do. I do my thing on YouTube. Different, I think, than anybody else's thing. Because I've always been a maverick in everything I do. Never did anything like everybody else. So I don't know 125. Why is that? I have no idea. That's all I compare to just paying for dinner. How much is the Melbourne meetup on the 28th? Looking forward to hear from you. I think they charge, it's going to cost about $50 to have lunch in that place. You know, I mean, it's an all-you-can-eat meat place, and they're not cheap. They're just not cheap. Just not cheap. Ah, Mark Whistler bought me a coffee. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate that. Mark said, nice cup. Mark, this is one of the nicest cups, my friend. You notice how every time I drink out of it, I thank you for it. I cherish this cup. You could not have put a cartoon figure on this cup that makes me any happier than Kenny. Kenny's immortal. How many times have they killed Kenny? 100 times? It had to be at least 100 times. And for those of you that have never watched South Park, watch South Park. You should. It is a cartoon, but it is not a children's cartoon. Those little kids swear their heads off. I mean, it's fabulous. And Kenny's always getting run over, killed somehow, and the other kids always go, they killed Kenny! You bastards! And you know, there's too many things in life that aggravate you and make you angry and piss you off. Any opportunity to just smile and start laughing at something, no matter how absurd you think it may be. If it strikes you funny, it's so good for you. It's so good for you. And I've settled into the habit, and I think you may find that this sounds really strange, but I've settled into the habit at night. Instead of watching YouTube, instead of watching the news, I always like to watch TV. It makes me sleepy, and then I shut the TV off, and I'm gone in a minute. I watch an old episode of South Park almost every night. It's silly. I'm an old man. What do? I climb into bed 10, 10:30, 11 probably at the latest. Turn on the TV. Immediately turn to an episode of South Park. And I forget, and I don't care what mood I was in, what I was worried about, what I was angry about, it all just dissipates. And a smile just appears on my face, and I just get such a kick out of the characters that they've invented in that story in South Park, Colorado. And for those of you who have seen it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's so wild. And if you haven't seen it, you got to watch a few episodes to catch on to what's going on there and figure it out. But it is worthwhile, and it'll enrich your life and de-stress you, honest to God. And you'll be hysterical with some of the stuff they come up with. So that's better for me than any sleeping pill. But the question was, do you take an afternoon nap? And the answer is very rarely, hardly, no. I sleep good at night. I get 6 hours, 5-6 hours solid sleep, maybe 7 every night. That's more than enough for me. I never get tired during the day. I never get sleepy. I never run down. I just keep going, go, 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 go. I'm as energetic now as I was at 8:30 this morning, and I've been gone all day. Been to Orlando, got my teeth cleaned, been back, did all kinds of stuff around the house, did some computer work. I, cooked my meals today, and I'm still going. I'm still going. No, I don't, but that doesn't mean that's carnivore's fault. I've never taken naps. It's just it's just the way I'm built. The way I'm built. Let me I did have some show notes. Let me make sure I covered everything that I want to cover here. Buy me a coffee link. Put QQQs before questions. The meetup in Melbourne 2 weeks from today, 11:30 a.m. at the Brazilian Steakhouse in the Melbourne Square Mall. Send me an email, RSVP, if you think you're going to come. No panel tonight. Somebody today asked me, do I have a picture of my humidor? I thought that was kind of an unusual request. But far be it for me to turn down anybody's request, so there you go. That's my cigar humidor. That's it, right there. And I'll show you a picture of it open. Where's the picture of it open? There it is. That's it, open, with some cigars in it. And I don't keep a lot of cigars. I keep a bundle around, and I just buy them when I run out of them. And that's my little humidor. I have 5 or 6 or 7 other humidors put away somewhere for back when I was in the cigar business. I had humidors everywhere. I had an entire closet in my house with a big humidifier in it when I was in the business, and I was shipping cigars to people and had 50,000 cigars in my house. But, now I'm down to the one little humidor just with a few cigars for me that I smoke. That's it. Nothing very dramatic at all. Nothing very, but I don't remember who asked me, but I know somebody did. And that's it. I think that's my show notes. How are we doing on time? Well, half hour, so I can't be any more than a half an hour behind in the chat. I'm going to start looking for questions, and however long it lasts, it'll last, my friends. Oh, one more announcement. Tomorrow morning is Wednesday morning. It's my head to Sam's to try to score some markdown meat Wednesday morning. We'll be here at 10 a.m. on Wednesdays, 10 a.m. For morning coffee. And that helps the people on the West Coast a little bit, maybe, to get involved. The attendance has been great. The attendance has, for those of you who don't know, we almost got to 200 people watching on Sunday morning. Got up to 198. That was incredible. And even this morning, 160, 165, 170. It's crazy. It's just wonderful. Very, very heartwarming. Very heartwarming. Here's a question I saw. Just Sybil V just asked. Will carnivore help me get better faster? I get sick with a cold. Well, impossible to guarantee that, but from everything that I've seen, I heal faster. I don't even get colds anymore. Once in a blue moon, I know months and months ago, I had what I thought was a little upper respiratory congestion, but that went away quick. And if I cut myself, it heals quick. I think just being healthy will do that. Lambs. Lamb says, what is Fuddruckers? Please explain to an ignorant European. Dan Galasso. Somebody mentioned Fuddruckers, and I can understand a European might not understand it. It's the name of a restaurant that's designed to sound like an obscene word, but it's not. And that's all. That's all it means. It means nothing other than the fact that if you're an American and you know what rhymes with uckers or ucker, it just reminds you of an obscene word, fud ruckers. But it's not an obscene word. It's an obscene sounding word. It means nothing. Means nothing. But I thought that's funny. That's very funny. That's very funny. All right, let me start going down the chat here, even though it's behind. Nikki, when will we get a Mitch Fitz shirt? That's an awesome design. Okay, chalk one up for the I want one column or I like it column. You don't even have to say you want one. Just tell me if you like it or not. Wow, what happened to all my viewers? I just went from 100 to 77 in about a half a second. You suppose that's YouTube screwing up? Or do people really, did I say something that offended everybody? Now it says 73. What the hell? That doesn't make any sense. I'm going to assume that you're all still here and keep going. 8:30, did somebody else much prettier than me come on with a live stream that everybody had to leave? Don't know. Don't know. Symbol 5 says, yes, merch. Tide Rick says, yes, still here. Boyd Lamb says, Lori ran them off. That's funny. That's funny. Wow. Well, we'll see if they come back. Sometimes YouTube does that. Not very often, but they'll just take a big dive. I had 113 earlier, said CB. Yeah. Now I'm up to 85 again. Yeah, so evidently something in YouTube's computers do that every once in a while. Now it's 89. Yeah, they're giving it back. It's something screws up in the real-time counting. But I got to tell you, when you keep an eye on that number when you're doing these things, because that's like a performer on stage listens to his audience, and a comedian, if they're not laughing or they're not applauding, he needs to do something. Now, that number is the equivalent of an audience laughter and applause for a comedian. It's the only way I know whether my audience is getting that deer in the headlights look, thinking about clicking off to find something a hell of a lot more interesting than old Mitch rambling on about his teeth cleaning or something. Oh, speaking of rambling on, got this today. Talked about this a lot. Pointed you towards Sally Norton's video yesterday, and I said, it was cheap. It was like $13 on Amazon. Next day delivery for Prime members. I said, I'm going to get a copy. I said, it's got to be interesting, and if nothing else, in this book here, it's got all these, it's just tables and tables and charts and every friggin' plant on the planet, how many oxalates it's got per what serving size and all that stuff. Half of this book is like a reference book about plants. I've seen Sally Morton for a long time, and she talks about plants and the poisons and how they damage you. She is not spreading a carnivore message. That's not her thing. I doubt when she started on this oxalates are bad thing, I doubt she even knew what a carnivore was. Although she did end up on if not almost pure carnivore, in a really meat-heavy diet, because when you take out the sugar, when you take out the seed oils, when you take out the plants that have all these toxins, what have you got left? Meat. By default, you end up a carnivore. And there was a couple of things that she and Zane Griggs were talking about in that video of hers, where she said something like that. She didn't think carnivore was a good thing to do long term, like for life. But I skipped right over that. I knew what she was talking about. She was talking something I've been exploring, something Rob Sivas talks about, and that is that the carnivore is perfect for straightening everything out. But even though it's not proven and we have no studies to show it, it's very possible that a small amount of dietary carbohydrate may be beneficial in your diet because it keeps you flexing in and out of fat burning and sugar burning and takes a load off the liver in having to use gluconeogenesis to create the glucose it needs. Sometimes you got to get a little from external, and that kind of jives with the way our ancestors lived because they didn't always have meat. None of them were guaranteed meat every day and never had to turn to the survival food. We have evolved to eat mostly meat, some plant matter, and, sugar. They didn't have seed oils. And the plant matter and sugar that we ate was nothing like it is today, and it was hardly available in any quantity, let alone on every street corner and every store, racks and rows of candy and cakes and cookies and pies and ice cream and everything else, and grains and cereals and pastas and all the stuff that we've come to know as our diet. So I keep thinking about so much of all of these things that you hear and all the different approaches. And I'm going to make a video. I think I have to make a video, and I have to think it out and outline it out because there's so many points I want to cover, but I've got it distilled in my mind, the concept I want to present, and it kind of explains the reason why I got so many of those comments correcting the hell out of me, telling me Sally Norton is definitely not a carnivore. She hates carnivore. She doesn't like carnivore. She's a vegetarian. And I can understand why they might think that, because back when she wrote this book, she was just coming off of being a vegan. She had discovered that virtually everything she was eating was killing her. She wasn't thinking in at that time, she wasn't thinking in alternative foods. She was thinking, which ones of these can I eat, and what can I do to them? How can I prepare them in such a way to minimize the poisonous aspect of them? And as I got this book, and I can read pretty fast, and I'm skimming through it, I see that there are pages and pages and pages that really say, and again, remember, this is before anybody was even talking about carnivore. This book is how to, if be the healthiest plant-based person you can. I looked up in the index. I looked up the word carnivore. It does not, in the index, not once of this book does the word carnivore show up. This is not a book about the carnivore diet. This is a book to convince anybody to do nothing but don't eat plants. Period. That's the purpose of this book. That's the purpose of that interview with Zane Griggs. And maybe it gave me a little food for thought, saying maybe I need to eat a little rice once or twice a week. But I haven't decided to yet. And I'll let you know how my feelings go on that. But I just wanted you to know that after I got this book today and looked through it, I said, this book, there's nothing in this book for a carnivore. If you can grasp the fact that oxalates are poisonous, oxalates do all these bad things, and she takes chapters and chapters and chapters to go over all the bad things that I know I've had them happen to me. If you could just say, yeah, I know that plants contain oxalates. I know that oxalates screw up the human body in strange and wonderful ways. And you say, okay, I shouldn't eat plants. My friends, you do not need this book. Nothing in this book will help you. This book just tells you how to coexist with and eat plants and do the least amount of damage to yourself. And in that respect, considering most people on the planet will not give up plants, this would be a very useful book for them and may help them tremendously. But the minute each and every one of them decides, I'm going to be a carnivore, you don't need it. You don't need it. I'm glad I bought it. If nothing else, than for the charts and tables in there that show me just how much oxalate is in virtually everything that grows from the ground. We don't stand a chance on a plant-based diet. Between the seed oils, forget the ultra-processed foods, but between the seed oils and the sugars that we all talk about all the time, the oxalates may be the worst and most dangerous of that group of things. We don't stand a chance. We can't, we will get sick, we will deteriorate, and we will suffer. Do you have to be pure carnivore? No. I always say that anybody can eat a small number of carbs. Watch out for the foods you know are really dangerous, but eat a little, eat a little carbs, have a little treat once in a while. As long as it doesn't trigger your addiction and sabotage your diet, you can do that. Unfortunately, I've learned that most of us can't do that, at least initially, without sabotaging everything. So better not to. And that's why I kind of push the strict but not anal retentive version of carnivore. Just don't eat carbs. And plants, you don't need the plants. You don't need the plants. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit tonight and kind of wrap up this business about oxalates and Sally Norton. And it wasn't until I got the book and really looked and saw what the book was. It reminded me of all the other diet books. And these other books come out and they give you a complete plan. But that's assuming that you're eating that subset of foods. But none of that applies to me or you. We're eating bacon, eggs, and beef, chicken, pork, and eggs, and, what the hell do I care how many oxalates this plant has or that plant or the other plant? I'm not eating any of them. I'm on a zero oxalate. The only thing I was really tickled to hear is that coffee has zero oxalates. Unfortunately, tea, my friends, has a lot of oxalates in it. So coffee might be a better choice for you. At any rate, I will put this book on my bookshelf with all the other books I haven't touched in 40 years. And if I ever need to figure out how much and no detriment to Sally Norton, this book would be helpful for most people, because most people can't imagine life without all of the plants that they eat. Carnivores, the few of us that are around, have no need for it. No need for it. The video is well worth watching because it's an eye-opener. And it shows you what everybody but carnivores are doing to themselves by eating this stuff. The spinach, the chocolate, the almonds. It's poison, poison, poison. Remember, like Anthony Chaffee's professor said, plants are trying to kill you. But we can eat, I've always said, if it's not an addiction issue, you don't have to be a Nazi about it. You can just relax. I don't say don't eat things that you know are going to throw you off, like pastries and sweets and donuts and things like that. But my God, you want to have a little bit of a potato, some potato once in a while, or some rice once in a while. You can use a book like this to learn which is the best way to prepare it. Turns out things like Asian white rice is so much better for you than brown rice, that they keep pushing. They push the brown rice, the whole grains. That's nonsense. That's nonsense. That's where the toxins are. When you take seeds, the poisons are in the outside layers of it. They're telling you that's the healthy stuff to eat. Potato skins, tomato skins is where the brunt of the poison is. That's why we peel potatoes, and that's why they skin tomatoes. Well, we've gotten away from that too. And these stupid raw vegans come along. They want to give you some kind of a gold medal for saving the planet because you eat your vegetables raw. And then you get sick. Who are you going to blame it on? I don't know. Everybody, you have to take your advice and see how it applies to what you want to do. Because Sally Norton's advice about how to eat plants turns out, and this hit me today, to be completely inapplicable to those of us who eat no plants. Why do we need to worry about oxalates when we don't eat any? The only thing we need to learn from Sally is how to not kill ourselves in this phase of oxalate dumping. And that's something we need to pay attention to. And I'm going to talk more about that anytime I talk about starting carnivore, because it can be dangerous. Most of us have consumed so much of this stuff in our lifetimes. It's everywhere in our body. And the minute we stop consuming it, our body sees it as a signal to start getting rid of it. And some people can get rid of it so fast, they poison themselves with it. It comes out of hiding and gets into the system, and it just poisons them, because it is a poison. And in that respect, her advice on weaning off of some of these things, if you happen to have been eating a lot of this, if you were a real health nut following all the advice, chances are you really have overloaded yourself with oxalates. That's just one thing to be concerned about. Then we've got seed oils to be concerned about. Then we've got excess sugar to be concerned about. And everybody's diet plan usually only addresses one. Sally's diet plan and her whole book only addresses oxalates. So what good would it be to follow all of her advice while you're still consuming huge quantities of seed oils and sugars? You're not helping yourself at all. So we have to look at all of these different books that come out with all these plans and recipes and eating plans and everything else, and try to figure out which direction they're coming from, which one of the many major problems in our diet is that addressing at the ignoring what other major ones, and the net effect is we're not really doing much of anything. You can't just solve one of four major problems and expect everything to be fine, which is why I'm a carnivore. Because carnivore, as they say, is billed as the ultimate elimination diet. It solves all of the wrong eating problems. It gets rid of virtually everything, no matter where it's coming from. It gets rid of the oxalates. It gets rid of the sugars. Gets rid of the oxidizable seed oils. You got meat left. There's nothing in meat that's harmful. There's nothing in meat that's going to make you sick. It's only going to give you nutrition and heal you. Then we get to the fine points of a carnivore diet. But at least we're on the right track, which is why I think we are on absolutely the right track. I just need to tweak a few things down the road. Well, for me, it's getting down the road now, 2.5 years. And I need to start looking at this stuff. And it's not going to be complicated, but I want to make sure if I do anything, I do it right. If I decide I need to have a cup of rice a week, let's say, just to add a little bit of glucose to my system so it makes it a little easier, something else I don't have to make, even though I very easily make the sugar. Why not? It's not going to hurt. It's not going to make much difference at all, considering the huge quantities of sugar most people eat, including me. I used to eat, and I'll be able to tell very quickly if it's any harm. So I'm not afraid to do something like that, to experiment a little, because this is not a religion for me. This has to make complete sense any way you look at it, and from every direction with which you look at it from. I hope you followed my logic through all of that stuff. Well, we'll be talking more about that in the future. Let me just cruise on here and look for questions. Here's Boyd Lamb Ever for 14 months. Yes, congratulations. Congratulations, Boyd. I think you were one of the first. Hi, and Muyani's here. How you doing? Wow, am I behind in this chat? Holy cow. Half you people probably aren't here anymore. Let me see if I have to thank anybody for any coffees here. No, not since Mark. Let's see. BB1 Mac is here. Hi, Mac. All right, I'm going to have to really scream through this. Well, I've only been at it for an hour, but I need to start catching up. Let's see. Let's see. How many people? Yeah, 130 people. That's good. You guys talk about the strangest things. Yeah, we got a little conversation going on about plumbing. Yeah, how about that? 127 times poor Kenny. Those bastards. Those bastards. Here's a question. What is it? Dan Glasgow wondering how to celebrate my birthday in a couple months, having come from a cake and ice cream tradition, assuming I don't want to cheat. Well, have a ribeye with a candle in it. Use your imagination. Use your imagination. That's one of the problems. That's indicative of the problem. Food is not fuel anymore. Food is a treat. It's a treat now. Who doesn't want a treat? It feeds the addiction. It's a treat. We're so settled into that. How are we ever going to change? It's culture. It's in our culture now. How are we ever going to change? God, if I know. One at a time. Let's do it ourselves. Happy birthday, though. Happy birthday. Make a meat cake. Put butter on top of it and a candle. Oh, man. Your guests will be running for the doors. Oh, it looks like Sherry's here. I see that Peter said hi to Sherry, so I guess Sherry's here. Hi, Sherry. How are you? Good to see you. Good to see you. I'm sure I'll come across one of your chat entries here pretty soon, unless Peter made a mistake. There you go. You got it. Bacon on a steak with candles. Why not? Let's start a new tradition. See how little Johnny at 3 years old likes that. Likes to have a big hamburger with a candle sticking out of it. A meatloaf. That's pretty morbid, Boyd. I showed the picture of my humidor. I want to know if I can put my ashes in it in 30 to 40 years. Well, I probably could. I'm sure it would fit if they fit in those little jars. Sybil 5, will carnivore help me get better? Yes, you asked that one. I did find that one earlier, and I said, maybe. Seems to. It seems to, yeah. Seems to make me heal. Makes me heal up a little quicker. I'm getting thirsty here. Oh, carnivore champagne, guys. Little San Pellegrino here. Oh, wow. It's not bad stuff. It has a little mineral flavor to it. I'm hoping the stuff that's in there is really good for you. So let's see if I can find a juicy question that I can sink my teeth into here. I don't see any, guys. Boyd Lamb, I don't know if he's being silly. Help me, Mr. Wizard. I don't want to be a carb eater anymore. Drizzle, dazzle, druzzle. Dream time for this one to come home, but be just what you is, not what you is not. Okay, Boyd. I'm sure there's a deep philosophical meaning in there somewhere. I think I understand what you're saying. Oh, yeah, this CB, Mitch just had a pound of blueberries back in. You're right, that's a joke, my friend. Oh, man. That would be a disaster. Blueberries were my kryptonite, in case you don't know. I ate blueberries because everybody told me that of all the carbs and all the fruits, they were probably the best. Probably the lowest in sugar, the most in very good, what they call phytonutrients. I call phytonutrients phytochemicals now, not phytonutrients. And phytosteroids are the plant's version of our cholesterol. Just because it says phyto in front of it, that just means that evidently it comes from a plant. Doesn't mean it's good, but they make it sound like it's important. It's important to have, and they have names. Polyphenols. You should drink red wine because the skins of the red grapes have polyphenols in them. Well, who says we need polyphenols? Maybe they're poisonous too. Everybody tells you what they want you to hear if they're a polyphenol salesman. So I just ignore all that stuff anymore. It's just noise. Spanky says, broccoli seems to work well with me. Does nothing to my... Well, broccoli is pretty... nothing. What's it got in it? It's probably the least poisonous of so many of the plants, but it's... I think it comes from the... I know that it comes from the cabbage family. I think all that stuff, all these new vegetables that we've selectively bred, invented, genetically modified, never used to exist hundreds of years ago, and they all started out as a cabbage or something. When they say, don't play with your food, they had no idea how right they were. And the kind of playing with our food we've done, the scientists have done, and how they've just totally screwed it up. MM says, no wonder I never liked tea. Yeah, it's got oxalates in it. Jennifer, my sentiments exactly yay for coffee. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Tammy, I'm with you. It's amazing. Tammy, I don't have a desire for any vegetables or fruits. I don't either. Not anymore. It's gone. It just went away. I can think about them. I can look at them. I can watch other people eat them. It doesn't bother me. Very little bothers me anymore when I watch anybody eat anything. I don't care if it's pizza, ice cream, or what, all that other stuff. But I know that it wouldn't take much for me to cross that fine line again where the addictions will start taking hold. I just have to be very careful. Scott Elliott says, my trigs were over 600. We'll get blood work done again Friday. Yeah. So many people are running around with numbers like that. My cholesterol is super high, but I just think it happens to be a good thing. It makes sense to me that when you're burning fat as a primary fuel, your blood lipids are going to be completely different than somebody who is primarily burning sugar. And the sugar itself is destroying the lipoproteins, turning them into the kind that gets stuck on inflamed artery walls caused by oxidation and other things, and causing heart disease. They've got it so wrong. And their normal ranges in these tests are the normal ranges of people who are metabolically ill. So you want to have a perfectly sick and malfunctioning metabolism? Shoot for the numbers that the doctor tells you are normal. That makes sense to me. I've heard other people brush on that. It just makes sense to me. If you're a fat burner, if all the energy or most of the energy that you're using in your body is either ketones or comes from triglycerides, free fatty acids, and the like, and has to get to every cell in your body. It has to be transported through your bloodstream. If your individual cells can metabolize sugar, the sugar can dissolve in your bloodstream. It doesn't need to be delivered in a vehicle. It just floats along by itself in the blood and gets to the cell, and the energy gets to the cell. But when you convert from burning sugar to fat, the fat can't just float along like the sugar in the bloodstream. It's not soluble in. You've seen what happens when you put grease in water. It floats to the top. It just globs up. Well, that's what would happen in your blood. So we have proteins called lipoproteins that are like little delivery vehicles, and they carry the fat-soluble things. The things that are fat-soluble are many of the vitamins that we know so well. Cholesterol is fat-soluble. Triglycerides are fat-soluble, and triglycerides are 3 chains of a free fatty acid, and that's the fuel we burn. So the triglycerides are carried by lipoproteins, and the cholesterol, which is the building material and the repair material and the material that cell walls are built out of, is also carried around in the bloodstream because it's needed in every cell. So it makes sense that if all your energy is coming from fat, then all that fat has to get to the cells. You're going to have a bloodstream full of lipoproteins making deliveries that you didn't need when you were burning sugar. How could you possibly live and create enough energy unless there was enough delivery vehicles in your bloodstream bringing that fat to your cells, which didn't need to be there, which is why when Nick Norwitz did that brilliant little test about lowering his cholesterol, and by cholesterol he meant lipoproteins. Cholesterol is not what he lowered. He lowered the lipoprotein weight of the boats and the trucks delivering the fat. The cholesterol is only one of the things carried by these lipoproteins. You got to think of a lipoprotein as a vehicle, as a ball. Gets stuffed full of fat, sealed up, and the water and the blood carries it where it needs to go. Then it attaches to the cell like a truck at a loading dock, and it pulls in the stuff or pushes out the stuff and goes on its merry way to the next customer. If you're a fat burner and your body can only get fat to the cells with these lipoproteins, of course you're going to have more of them. And the more of them that you have, the more energy is available to your cells. That's why the lean mass hyperresponders who seem to be athletes and have all the energy have sky-high lipoprotein levels, LDL and HDL and VLDL, and yet no damage and no heart disease because their body's working as it should. But we've seen so few of those healthy people in our society that 99.9% of all blood tests only fall within the range of people that are sugar burners these days. And not thinking it through clearly enough and listening to people like Ancel Keys who say that cholesterol clogs your arteries, we've developed this theory that's exactly backwards. And we all think that the lower cholesterol is better. It's not. Not in a healthy individual who's burning fat primarily for fuel. That's the caveat. That's become a reality so obvious to me, I can't imagine how anybody believes anything else yet. Everybody believes the opposite, except a few of us, Mitch Fitz, that are here. And DS111, you're right on time with hello, Mitch Fitz. Yes, that was a coincidence. I didn't plan that. Scott Elliott, Doc put me on a 10 milligram statin. Unfortunately, I'm determined to get. Well, the good news is 10 milligrams is not a big dose. I've actually heard Ken Berry say, if If your doctor really insists and you don't want to lose your doctor, take the 5 milligrams. It probably won't hurt you. Isn't that a shame we have to do something like that to placate one of our employees? Somebody that works for us, we have to kiss their ass. There's something just wrong about that. Something just wrong. Well, you guys are having great conversations in here anyway. All right, what do we have here? CB. Only thing I think about is the little vitamin C we get from the meat has nothing competing to enter the cells. Do we need more vitamin C sources? I don't think so, CB. I don't think so. I think we get a little vitamin C from a lot of different things. I don't even think about it. I don't worry about it. And when I see scurvy cases popping up here and there and everywhere, I'll start to pay attention to it. But there's a million. I mean, there's thousands and tens of thousands of different compounds that the human body uses, some of them in such trace amounts that they're almost undetectable. Vitamin C became popular for some reason as a supplement, and they just, as an antioxidant, I think they just over glamorized it, and I think really inflated its importance, especially in a healthy individual. So that's my opinion. But I don't think about it. I don't give a shit about vitamin C. I eat the food I eat, and I'm feeling great. And I will not take. I'm not going to start taking crap and end up with a supplement box with 87 pills every day just to be sure. I eat the food. You may be right. You may be right. We get it, but you don't need. The theory is that when you're healthy and eating meat and everything, you need a small, tiny fraction of the vitamin C you need when you're eating all these inflammatory foods. So maybe we're not getting enough vitamin C for the average fat, sick, diabetic, unhealthy human being. Maybe they do need more vitamin C, and they're normal. That's the norm. So the recommended minimum daily allowance of vitamin C is probably a hell of a lot higher than a healthy individual needs. But if we're healthy individuals, why should we have to worry about taking and ODing on vitamin C? I remember the days where you take 10,000 milligrams of vitamin C to knock out a cold. Well, that never worked. I don't know. It's an unknown. It's an unknown. For everybody that says you don't need it, somebody will come along and say you do need it. And are there any studies? Are there any randomized? Are there any real controlled studies where they actually have groups of people where everything remains constant over long periods of time, except for a difference in the amount of vitamin C that they're getting? And then after 10 or 20 years, they can see which group is still living or dead? No. Nobody has ever done those. Those tests have never been done. They can't be done. So we can only theorize on most of this stuff and take our best guess. And whatever becomes popular or whatever propagates out into the news and the doctor's mailbox is usually the stuff that makes certain people the most money. And maybe it's going to kill me one day, but I'm such a cynic that when somebody tells me something, I immediately say, what's the catch? Not me, not doing it. Not doing it, sorry. Don't believe you. You're going to have to make a real case for this. But yeah, it's interesting. I keep hearing, this vitamin C stuff pops up every week. Somebody else is saying, you're running a real risk of getting scurvy as a carnivore because everybody knows, I love that saying, everybody knows that, if you don't get enough vitamin C, you're going to get scurvy. Meanwhile, how many carnivores do we hear about? And one or two people claimed to have gotten scurvy, but that was a fraud and a hoax anyway. So even then, you know what false flag operations are. How do you know, just because you heard it on the news, that it isn't somebody with some scheme trying to fool you into thinking something happened that really didn't? Yeah. We have a world of dishonest people, unfortunately. And it's tough these days because when you hear something, the tendency is you want to believe the things that you want to believe, and you don't want to believe the things you don't want to believe. So you got that bias to overcome, as well as so many ideologies that when people hear something that goes against their ideology, they're like, la 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 la, I don't want to hear it, la la, they don't want to hear it, even if it's true. So most people go through their whole life stuck in a particular belief pattern, and the truth most often has very little relevance. Questions. Where am I? 9 o'clock. Wow, catching up. Oh, this is great. Lamb says question. Forgot the question. But it was stethoscope kissing related. Does gender play a role? You remember I was talking about doctors and I say they want you to kiss their stethoscope. That's funny. FX Trader says, Mitch, do you drink San Pellegrino cold? Yeah, I keep it in the fridge. It warms up a little during one of these live streams, but yeah, I keep it cold. I just get they come in like 24 things. Just put them down in the bottom thing in the fridge, and they all cool down at once. Am I missing something? Did somebody make a video saying that if you drink it cold, it'll kill you? You're supposed to drink it warm like James Bond drinks vodka martinis at a certain temperature exactly? I don't think so, but it's possible. We're talking about blueberries now. I'm going through that. BB Mac thinks the answer to all our problems is wild turkey, 101 proof. My friend, you have as much chance of being right as the rest of us. And probably your answer would be a hell of a lot more popular. Oh, Ellen, Sandra McDonald, where has Ellen gone? Ellen emailed me, and I read it at the beginning of the stream. She's just busy as hell out there. She's busy as hell. And she's taking doggy CPR classes now. Who'd have thunk it? I never would have guessed that. No, DS111, Ellen didn't get lazy. That's not what it is. She got busy. She all of a sudden, the people started calling her. They wanted to throw money at her to take care of their dogs. And she also does work for some nursing school. Listen, the only reason anybody would do this YouTube stuff or help somebody that does it is because they love to. It's not like a high-paying job, believe me. I don't blame Ellen. If she doesn't have fun doing this, and maybe it got old, I don't know. That's her prerogative. She doesn't owe me anything, certainly. And I'll never be disappointed. And when she wants to, I get to cater her back up there in the penthouse for her. No problem. I got them on call. Let's see here. Ed DLC, I guess, agrees with me about the LDL being like a delivery truck. Where are the studies to the contrary? Not only are there no studies to the contrary, there are no studies that actually give you any meaningful thing. That's the problem. You can't really show either way. The closest thing we have to studies right now are, believe it or not, things that Nick Norwitz and Dave Feldman are doing. Like Nick Norwitz, just to prove that when you switch from being a fat burner back to a sugar burner, your cholesterol or your LDL level will lower dramatically. And if you haven't seen his Oreo cookie versus statin video, watch it. It's fantastic, and it's true, and it makes sense, and it's the way it should work. If the way we're describing what a lipoprotein is and how it works and how it moves, how it carries things, fat-soluble things through an aqueous bloodstream, and that the level and the number of these little vehicles needed depend on the demand for energy at the cellular level. And that's regulated millisecond by millisecond. And anytime you get your blood tested, it is a snapshot, an instant in time. And if you waited another few instants, you might find the level half of what it was an instant before. Constantly. Look at your blood sugar. Look at the blood sugar spikes people get. These things are constantly being controlled within certain ranges by the body and go where they go, not for no reason. They go where they go because the body needs them at that level. Same thing with your the rate that you breathe. Same thing with your heart rate. Same thing with your blood pressure. We are on demand. On everything that happens to us is on demand. And that's why I hate to put a lot of credence in blood tests. You can get a blood sugar one is 80 and the next time you go in it's 300. Well, which is it? Well, your body needed it at 300 evidently at one point, needed it at 80 at another. So unless you stay constantly hooked up to these machines, like a CGM, get graphs and charts of your stuff over time, average it all out, and try to figure out why it's moving around, all those numbers are pretty well meaningless unless you can see a pattern to them. And yes, they mean something, but not the level of proof that we put on them of whether you're a sick man or a healthy man. I don't think so. So to try to, we don't have the studies. We don't have any studies that show that there's any causation where high LDL causes heart disease. We have none of that. We have studies funded by drug companies, the best of which show an insignificant improvement in a patient taking a statin over one not taking a statin. Things of a percentage of a percent. Insignificant in statistical terms, but blown way out of proportion in relative terms for advertising. And just watch some of David Diamond's videos on cholesterol if you want to see an example of how to turn a 0.4 or 0.5% advantage into a 30 or 45% claim. Crestor improves your chances of, or decreases your chance of having a heart attack by 45%. It's what the advertisements said. The real decrease was 0.5% between the two numbers, but relative, one number to the other, one number was the 0.8, which was the statin, and the 1.3, which was the non-statin. The relationship between 0.8 and 1.3, neither of which were significant coronary artery. In other words, they took 100, let me try to explain this to you if you're not following the numbers. You take 100 people, you divide them into two groups. You do what you can to try to make them equal to each other, and you try to create just one variable between them. So after a year or 2 years on this test, you can see if there's really any difference. And that's about the best you can do. And if you want to randomize it, you randomize it so nobody knows what group they're in, only the people that are controlling the test. So here you go. Got these 200 people divided into two groups. One group's taking a statin, the other group isn't. Other than that, they're all pretty much identical and as close as they can get in their physical makeup, their age, their blood work, so that the only difference really in most of them is just the fact that one group's taking a statin. Okay, so you got 100 people, and you're going to see in those group of 100 people after, say, 5 years, how many people have a heart attack or other severe complications from coronary disease like death or something, but a coronary related incident. So you got 200 people and they're going along 5 years, and they take the statins, and at the end of the 5 years, out of the 100 people, 0.8, I don't know how they arrived at it, but 0.8 of them had a problem. Not even 1 out of 100 people, whether they took the statin or not, had a problem. Think about that. Got 100 people, less than 1 of them had a negative outcome. And then you go to the other group where they supposedly did take the statin. And out of the 100 people over there, 1.3 of them had a negative outcome. So what really happened is that if you reverse the numbers, you can say that 99.2% of the people that took the statins had no problem, and 98.7% of the people who didn't take the statins had no problem. And the fact that around 1% of the 100 people had a problem is basically statistical noise in a group that size, and meaningless, and in any study would be thrown out as insignificant. But what these clowns did with the numbers, and they may have done 20 studies, and most of the studies may have shown that the people that took the statins fared worse than the people that did, but they don't have to publish them. They're paying for it. They can throw them away. So they got this one study that showed a 0.5% improvement in absolute terms when you look at it that way. But the way statistics can be manipulated, they said, well, we had 0.8% benefited and 1.3% didn't. 0.8 is 40% less than 1.3, isn't it? Isn't it? Isn't it? So we can claim that our statin drug will reduce your risk of having a heart attack by 40%. And we're not lying. That 40% doesn't mean anything. And let me give you an example. If you're still not following me, and I hope I'm not boring you to tears, if you're still not following me, let me give you a real world example that I remember from a number of years ago where they did the same thing. And they do this all the time with statistics. Any of you remember 20 years ago, 30 years ago, when the assault weapons ban? Remember the assault weapons ban? It was a big push to get the ugly rifles off the street, because we all know how big a problem they were. And we spent hundreds of millions of dollars and the Congress's time and everything else. And they finally passed the assault weapons ban. Bill Clinton was president at the time. And about 2 years or 3 years after they passed the assault weapons ban, I still remember this. I watched it on TV. Bill Clinton got up on stage claiming a victory for the anti-gun people. And he stood up there on stage and he said, I'm happy to announce in the past 3 years, we have reduced the deaths from these assault weapons by 40%. This is true. I'm not making this up. Google it if you don't believe me. I mean, if you can find it. We have reduced the deaths caused by these assault weapons by 40%. I said, wow. Funny thing, though, I didn't even know there was a lot of people being killed by these assault-style looking weapons. So I started looking up the numbers. And it blew me away. It absolutely blew me away what I found. And I found out that I think it was the year that they passed the assault weapon ban in the entire country of the United States of America, 10 deaths could be attributed to these type of weapons. 10 deaths. That was the extent of this huge problem needing to be held at, elevated to the highest levels of government. The problem that they were going to solve dealt with 10 people. We weren't talking about handguns or things that are used in robberies. We're talking about these things that most people take to the firing range and hobbyists use. 10 people. That was it, according to the FBI. 10 people. That's statistical noise. It's meaningless. In a country where 1,000 or 2,000 or 5,000 people die slipping and falling in their bathtub, maybe they should have spent that money on developing better non-skid surfaces for the bottoms of bathtubs. Where hundreds of thousands of people die in car accidents. 10 people? And were they accidental deaths, with somebody just cleaning their gun? Third year in, only 6 people died that third year. So all of that effort, all of that money, all that hoorah, all that aggravation, all of those legal cases, all of that crap about whether it was constitutional to ban these, in 3 years they claimed it saved four lives. Do we have anything more pressing to pay attention to? Maybe it was a non-problem to start with. And that's what they do with statistics. And that's what they've done with the cholesterol statistics. And look what they've done to us because of it. And they believe these things. These physicians actually believe that they're giving their patients a 40% leg up when it comes to heart disease. And yet magically, when they do analysis of all of these studies put together, and they actually look at what really happened by going back 10, 20, 30 years in hospital records and looking at the levels of these numbers in people and what eventually happened to them. And they call that a meta-analysis, and they create a huge database of these things with real data about real people who really died or really had heart attacks. And they look at those real numbers when the total cohort of all of them put together would be hundreds of thousands of people. And they find every time that the people that had the lowest cholesterol numbers died first. And the people that had the highest ridiculous heart attack cholesterol numbers were the ones that lived forever, healthy. And that's been proven. You ever heard about that on CNN? Hell no. Hell no. But I have copies of these studies. I mean, they're out there. It's incredible. It's incredible. Absolutely incredible. I don't know how I got started on that, but that's what these things are about. I get started on these things. Here we go. Question. Seasai, how you doing? Good evening, Mitch. How does the body process fat, protein, and carbs when ingested together? Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. That's a textbook about this thick. Wow. That is not a question. That's a semester. Now, oh my God, I can't even begin to. It's a good question, but I can't begin to answer that. I wouldn't even begin to know. I know the answer to it, but I wouldn't even know where to start. It involves the entirety of metabolic biochemistry. Things I would have to walk you step by step through every process in the cell to metabolize involved in cellular respiration from the citric acid cycle to glycolysis to lipolysis to the electron transport chain, oxidative phosphorylation, the Randall cycle. All of that plays into how a cell decides, do I burn sugar? Do I burn fat? How do I do it? It is not a question that I can answer here on a live stream, but it's a great question. And all I have is in my mind, swimming through my mind right now, are diagrams of all these different biochemical pathways that each one does a tiny little bit of the job that ends up with the fifth complex of the electron transport chain, which is called ATP synthase, creating adenosine triphosphate from adenosine diphosphate, and hence the cellular energy currency used to power virtually every process in our body. And that starts out as food, air, and water. And you basically ask the question, how does the body take food, air, and water and turn it into energy? And that is metabolism. So great question. Great question. And I'm not even a biochemist, and I got a pretty good grasp on that stuff. But a guy like Ben Bickman could explain it much better, but it would take a semester, unfortunately. FX Trader says, I'm sorry I couldn't really answer that for you now, but it was a cool question. FX Trader says, was Ancel Keys a real scientist? Well, he was a physiologist. He was a scientist. He was a fish physiologist. That was his science. That was his field. A fish. Honest to God, you can't make this shit up. He was a fish physiologist, but he was kind of out of his depth, I think. But he had a big ego and giant aspirations and some theories which at the time might have made sense to somebody who didn't know what we know today. But his ego took over, and he's one of these people that just said, my mind's made up, don't confuse me with facts. And he backed the wrong horse, unfortunately, and had the political skills and the personality to pull it off. Did he know anything about lipid metabolism? Evidently not. So in that respect, he was a quack. But he was an educated and degreed fish physiologist. He's been called the biggest mass murderer in the history of the world. And you could make a case for that. You could make a good case. But you could then go back and blame Kellogg and Ellen White and everybody else that played a part and a role in the chain of events. You can blame the boards of directors and the officers of every drug company and cereal company and big food company that has made, on purpose made this stuff more. You blame this? There's all kinds of people. You blame the people in government who are taking, who are being funded by, or having their campaigns funded by these big companies with agendas to vote their way. I don't think individually any of them even knew that it was wrong. They just said, well, that's the way we do things around here. I'm a big shot. I'm in Congress. You want my influence, my friend, you're going to have to buy it one way or another. That's the problem with our politicians. Amazing to me how somebody takes a $150,000 a year job, goes to Congress, stays there 20 years, retires worth $500 million. The math doesn't add up. But somehow, civil servant, they don't act like servants. They act like friggin' lords is what they act like. The arrogance on some of those people is monumental. But, we can complain about that stuff. We can't do anything about it. It is the way it is, and we have to live within it, I guess. Tammy, what is the name of the movie that Anthony Hopkins played the role of Dr. You talking about Dr. Kellogg? It was about not eating meat anymore. Yeah, that was called The Road to Wellville. The Road to Wellville. Starring Matthew Broderick, and Anthony Hopkins played John Harvey Kellogg. And it was a story of the Battle Creek Sanitarium sometime in the 1920s. And it's a great movie. It's a great movie. I think it was intended to be mostly a comedy, but it was a fairly real portrayal of how we got started on this vegetarian nonsense and the breakfast cereal business and everything. And the main thrust of the movie, if you watch it, was the fact that they were trying to steer men away from sexual thoughts, masturbation, and this was the way they did it. But there was an incredible sexual undertone in the movie because you can't take the human nature out of the human being. No matter what they did, these people were still running around trying to find sex because that's what people do. It was a great movie. It was a great movie, The Road to Wellville. And the picture they present of what it was like in those days with these religious wackos pushing vegan diets on people and demonizing meat and sex and all that other stuff was probably very close to accurate, even though I don't know if they thought they were making it accurate. But it's a great movie. It's on YouTube. You can find it and watch it for free. The Road to Wellville. I think I made a video referring you to that movie and had a little clip of it in there. Hang on a second here. Let's see. Hang on, everybody. Hang on. Oh, I thought I had it in this folder here. Maybe not. Oh, foo. Not unless this one is it. No. Okay. Sorry, guys. I thought I might have had a clip here. It's probably filed away in the folder with the video that I made using that clip. It's a great movie, Road to Wellville. Good question. You'd enjoy it. You'd really enjoy it. Sherry, how you doing, Sherry? Good to see you. Good to see you, sweetie. Glad you're here tonight, talking to everybody. Still doing your handstand challenge and recovering from your little dental adventure there. Hope you're doing well. I hope you're doing well. Why do you always bust on me, DS-111. You must really love me. If Mitch had a dog and it needed CPR, he would just recycle the dog. Come on now. Oh, yeah. I don't know if we're going anywhere with this little stream tonight, but we're almost at 2 hours, so what the hell? What the hell? I've had fun. A lot of people have come and gone. Standing Foot says, are all oxalates bad? Is there a scale of good and bad? No, all oxalates are bad. We don't need them, period. Our body will be able to detoxify and eliminate them if you can eat foods that have oxalates as long as you don't exceed a certain threshold. She talks all about that in the book. It's when you exceed that threshold that your body has to find places to put it, and you get overloaded with it, and that threshold is very low. Two little squares of chocolate will exceed that threshold. So, I mean, think about how much of that crap people eat in a day. Peanuts have it, Everything has oxalates. Some things like spinach have huge amounts. Chocolate has huge amounts. Almonds, they not only have oxalates, they're loaded with cyanide. Plants have defense chemicals. That means they have poisons. That's what defense chemicals are. They're poisons. They're designed so that to make animals think twice before they eat them. And the most successful of those plants with the most successful strategies are the ones whose descendants are still living today. So when you eat anything in the plant kingdom, you can assume you're eating a survivor with very successful survival strategies in the chemical warfare department. We have learned how to kind of hack that by cooking it, preparing them, soaking them, doing other things to these plants in certain ways, but as is human tendency, we forget history. We don't learn from history. So we completely change it up, forget the reasons why we had to cook the foods, start telling people that raw foods are healthier and that cooking destroys the nutrients. And now we've got people eating raw plants and getting, much larger doses of poison. And there are Italian grandmothers that you learned 100 years ago that if you don't peel the tomatoes, they're going to make you sick. Forgot all about them. Now, some of these plant toxins used in very small doses they found medicinal uses for them in humans. Curare, for example, is a paralytic. They use that to paralyze people that go into surgery, stop everything from working. They feed, they put them on ventilators and everything, but they can stop. They paralyze. It'll paralyze you. Well, in a small enough quantity, it'll put you to sleep. It'll put you out for a little while, but in a big enough quantity, you're dead. So, but they're chemicals nonetheless, and they just keep encouraging us to eat more and more of these foods that contain more and more of these damaging, whether it be sugar, seed oils, or oxalates, and they, for some reason, call them superfoods and tell us they're the best foods. I remember for a while, I actually thought, I believed, and I told people that I thought almonds were the best food for a human being on the planet. I mean, I had heard so many convincing arguments, and I was eating almonds like crazy. I'm lucky I didn't kill myself with all that cyanide. Seriously. Raw almonds, you get these big 1 pound or 5 pound, 3 pound bags from Sam's Club. You can sit in front of TV, go through a half a bag of those things. That's enough to kill you. Really, kill you. Cyanide poisoning. There's no coincidence that when somebody has been killed by cyanide poisoning, you smell their breath, it has an almond smell. That's how a lot of these old detectives used to be able to tell if somebody was poisoned with cyanide. They could just smell around their face after they were dead, and it had this almond smell, because that's where cyanide comes from. Ricin, one of the most deadly poisons, it comes from red kidney beans, which is why you have to be so careful when you cook these red kidney beans. You have to, is it the red kidney beans with the ricin, or is it castor beans? It's one of those. But red kidney beans, I read somewhere, you eat a handful of those things raw without soaking them and cooking them and boiling them, and it could kill you. There's enough poison in those things. Plants are trying to defend themselves. We don't have to learn how to deal with plants as carnivores. That's the easy part. That's why I threw Sally's book over my shoulder. As a carnivore, I don't give a shit what it says in there. If you tell me oxalates are bad, and I have a quick and easy way to eliminate all oxalates without having to think twice or strategize about what I'm going to replace this with and how I'm going to cook that and what size serving I can eat to keep myself under the daily allotment that my body can detoxify it all. I don't need to worry about any of that. I'm just going to eat zero. Same thing with sugar. How much sugar can I eat before I get fat, glom up my red blood cells, get my A1C through the roof, damage my cholesterol, cause heart disease and inflammation? How much can I eat? Well, you can eat 10 grams, you can eat 20 grams, but these grams digest faster than those grams, and the glycemic index is this and that. Hell with that. Why don't I just eat no carbohydrates and I can keep it really simple? Do I need any carbohydrates? Do I need to eat them? Well, no. Is there a minimum daily requirement? Well, no. Is there a minimum daily requirement of plants I need to eat? Well, no. Is there anything in plants that I need that I can't get from meat? Well, no. Then why? Because you're addicted to sugar, Mitch. Well, yeah, there is that. But I'll tough it out. How about seed oils? Can I live without those? Do I need industrial seed oils in my diet? Is there a minimum depth? No, none of that. Do I need it? No. Do I have to worry about whether I can only fry food in seed oils once a week or twice a week, or how often or how much, or which seed oil should I use? Should I use grapeseed oil or cottonseed oil or canola oil? How about I don't worry about any of that stuff and use no seed oils? And after you get done with all that logic, trying to simplify things, what do you come with? You're left with carnivore. You're left with carnivore. So let me get this straight. If I just eat meat, I will get 0 grams of anything from anywhere that's poisonous or bad for the human body. Is that what you're telling me? Well, yeah, I guess. Well, okay then. Carnivore I am. And that's just simple logic. And we're carnivores now. Are we going to stay carnivores without deviating a little for life? Probably not. Most people don't. There are probably very few carnivores that have gone, like I have, 2.5 years without a gram of anything else. I think that maybe that's pushing it a little too far. I do it because I'm challenging myself, but it's not necessary, I don't think. I don't think it's necessary. I think the scientific definition of carnivore is you get 70% of your nutrition from animal-based foods. FX Trader says, is refined sugar the original cocaine? It's more addictive than cocaine, I think, but it doesn't work. Cocaine is an opioid. Works a little differently, just like alcohol is addictive, and it works differently physiologically. But I think that sugar was the first. I think sugar came along at the beginning of the human experiment, of before we were even Homo sapiens. I think that as survival food, the carbohydrates have cemented their place in our pleasure center, so that the early human animals, way back millions of years ago, could be motivated like any animal today, seeking pleasure when their body knew they needed energy to go through the work when the meat wasn't there, to root out and try to find and somehow eat the horrible sour fruits and grubs, and not grubs or worms, but tubers and things like that. Question, I've been taking iodine since last June, and now my thyroid is low. T3 is 60. Doctor worried. I can't help you, Pamela. I do not give medical advice to anybody. Would not feel qualified to talk about that. It could be anything. Your doctor is a professional. His job is to do more than worry. His job is to figure out why. And since iodine is a very, 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 very common and very important part of everything thyroid in the medical community, your doctor should know what the hell's going on with you. And taking iodine, that's his purview. So either he is incompetent, but get a second opinion. I mean, that's absurd. He's a doctor. And if he's fooling around with thyroids, he's the guy that should know the effect of whether you need more or less iodine. Not some old fart YouTuber that has opinions and theories, but no medical license to give you any advice, and nor would I risk it. I try to be so careful. I know my limits. Look, I understand biochemistry. There's so many times I know the answer, and I know why the doctor's wrong, but I don't dare put myself out there as giving medical advice. I could go to jail in some extreme cases. If somebody pushed back hard enough, I can't risk that. See, if you can't get that doctor to help, find another one, Pamela. But geez, I don't know what I'm not really up on thyroid. I never had any thyroid issues, and usually what I talk about are things that have happened to me that I've had personal experience and figured out for myself, and those at least I know that I'm on the right track when I give advice. Ken Berry might be able to help you with that, but I think he would probably refuse to as well. There are questions I wish I could help, but I either can't or don't dare. My friends, I'm getting tired in case you can't hear it in my voice. Mitch, did you see one of Nick Norris' recent videos was marked as bad by YouTube, may not show up search results, but he did a community post with a link to it? No, I haven't seen that, Linda. But it doesn't surprise me that the science that he and Dave Feldman are doing is definitely getting under the skin of some of the big drug companies and food companies, and anybody thinks they're not going to try to put a stop to it. It's why I'm a crusader. I'm a little tiny crusader with a little tiny following here, trying to do what I can. I think a lot of the things I say may give you clues, the reasons why it's working, a little understanding, but I'm certainly not in a position, nor would I ever want to try to go national, effect huge changes, and anger the powers that are out there, like Ken Berry's trying to do with his American Diabetes Society. That's dangerous. It's dangerous to threaten corrupt people. Threaten them with being discredited, to lose their credibility and their funding. These are powerful people, well entrenched and in government, in advertising, in media. Why do you think we get the propaganda we do? I admire them for going after these and trying to. Robert F. Kennedy's been trying to do it for years. Now he's got, well, let's see how effective he is at actually curing the first carbohydrate addict in this country from a national level. They're starting with food dyes, by the way. Not our major problem. Oh, not even a drop in the bucket of our major problem. And they're going to have a hard time doing that too. So, unfortunately, good luck. Good luck. When the corruption gets so deeply rooted and the system is so deeply entrenched, nothing short of an armed revolution half the time. And even that half the time doesn't fix anything. All right, my friends, I'm tired. I'm rambling here. I don't think I'll ever get to the end of this thing. It's been 2 hours. It's been 2 hours. My coffee is gone. I'm going to go to bed because I got to get up tomorrow morning, go to Sam's Club, try to find some markdown meat. A lot of you were 94 people here, so I don't blame you. Getting tired of me, go to bed as well. And I'll say good night to everybody. And if I missed your question, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I have to get to it tomorrow. Come at 10 o'clock in the morning and have coffee with me. And then we'll be back to 8:30 again on Thursday. And until then, I'll give you a little happy music. Say goodbye to each other in the chat. I'll have a few more swigs of my San Pellegrino, and we will call it a day. I see at the bottom of the chat over here, I see Lizzie, Pamela Suarez, Standing Foot, Linda Price, Seaside, DS111MX Trader, Scott Elliott, Spanky, Golf Addict, cheers all, he says. Jeff Johnson, see you in the morning. Good night, everyone. Sweet dreams, says Ellen. Hi, Ellen. Wow. Good to see you. Wow. Good night to you. Thomas. Tanya, Kitchen Witches here. DS111. Good night, Mitch. And please sleep safely. I intend to. Danny in Boston says good night. So thanks so much for coming, my friends. Honest to God, I didn't think I'd make it 2 hours tonight. It's been a long day. No naps, though. No naps. And we're coming up on the end. Jeff Johnson says goodnight. CB Carmack says goodnight. Good night to you, my friend. Here it comes. Big finish. Yes. And with that, my friends, take the rest of the day off, even though there's not much of it left. And eat meat. I don't want to start the music over. See you tomorrow. Did I mention eat meat?